Good morning. It's the start of a brand new week. You're watching Power Breakfast from the Mumbai News Center. I'm Hormuz Patakia and with me is Vamakshi Doria. Vamakshi, good morning. The weekend is over as quickly as it began. But we're back awaiting some more data points globally and of course domestically as well.
Well, absolutely, Hormuz. It was a very great end to the week, on Friday, and today's session holds some bit of hope, especially given the kind of trade talks that could take place between the US and China. But let's get started with the top headlines. There's a lot lined up on the show. Stocks on Wall Street end Friday's trading session on a positive note on the back of a solid jobs report. The Dow surges more than 440 points, while the S&P 500 crosses 6,000 for the first time since February.
Stocks in the Asia Pacific are also trading with gains, mirroring Wall Street's moves. This as investors await the Beijing-Washington trade meeting and key macro data from China. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a gap up start so far for our own markets as well.
Crude oil prices climbed, posting its first weekly gain in 3 weeks after a favorable US jobs report and resumed trade talks between the US and China. Meanwhile, gold prices fall over 1% as the jobs report dampened hopes of an interest rate cut.
And the Trump-Musk feud escalates as the president warns that there would be serious consequences if Elon Musk backed Democratic candidates to run against Republicans who vote in favor of the GOP's sweeping budget bill. He added that he has no desire to repair his relationship with Elon Musk.
Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal met with UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy to discuss key issues surrounding the India-UK Free Trade Agreement and hailed the progress, pledging for deeper ties across sectors.
The macro data from China has flattered to deceive yet again, and this is after the consumer price inflation fell by 0.1% year-on-year in May. Of course, it was better than the 0.2% expectations, but the markets, though, are continuing to trade with gay abandon. As of now, the Hang Seng is up 1.25%. The Taiwanese index is also trading above the flat line. Gains also coming in from Japan, where the Nikkei is up 1%. The Kospi is almost up 2%, and the South Korean markets are continuing to outperform ever since the elections were completed, and of course the election of a new president as well. Funds have also been allocating funds there to South Korea, and the outperformance there continues. So the Kospi is up another 2% in today's trading session. So it is a positive screen across the Asia Pacific, mirroring the moves on Wall Street. And the GIFT Nifty will also give you an idea that it's likely to have a rub-off effect on our own markets. We ended Friday's session with gains of 250 points. The implied open is suggesting another 80-point advance for our own market. So seems to be a good start, Vamakshi, and that's because of the positive session that we had on Wall Street.
Well, absolutely, Hormuz. A positive session on Wall Street, definitely rubbing off on the Asian as well as the Indian markets. But let's also recap what happened there. In the US market, Wall Street ended higher on Friday on the back of strong jobs data. CNBC's Julia Burstein gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were up across the major indexes in Friday trading after a better-than-expected jobs number and news of a new round of trade talks with China. The Dow up 443 points, the S&P 500 gained 61, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq rose by 232 points. Hiring decreased slightly in May, even as consumers and companies brace for tariffs and a potentially slowing economy. According to the Labor Department Friday, 139,000 jobs were added in May, above the forecast of 125,000, but less than the April total of 147,000 jobs. And the unemployment rate held steady at 4.2%. Almost half the job growth came from healthcare, which added 62,000. Leisure and hospitality followed with 48,000. Potential hope of a trade deal also helping the markets on Friday. President Trump announced that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and U.S. Trade Rep Jameson Greer will meet with their Chinese counterparts in London on Monday as they look to renew trade talks after President Trump spoke with Chinese leader Xi Jinping earlier in the week. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Julia, thanks a lot for that update. In fact, now let's listen in to what James Bullard of Purdue University and Morgan Stanley's chief economist Michael Gapin had to say on the better-than-expected jobs data and whether that would help the Federal Reserve change its policy stance.
We are, and I think this cements the expectations that the Fed would be on hold until September. And then I think at that point, they could make a judgment about whether inflation is continuing to come down. I think my former colleague, Chris Waller, probably has it about right. If inflation continues to come down, which is what happened in the last trade war, then the Fed would be in a good position to probably lower the policy rate a little bit in the fall. But they don't have to do that. And really, when you look overall at the big picture, unemployment rate in the low fours, upward sloping yield curve, it's and inflation coming down 2.5 on the Dallas Fed trim mean coming down. It's all pretty good from the Fed's point of view.
I do think the jobs report today says the economy is cooling. I agree with the summary just brought forward that the economy's not rolling over and the bottom of the labor market isn't falling out. So I think today's number is consistent with cooling but not rolling over. But as we noted, there are some softness underneath these headline numbers. The participation rate did tick lower. And I think you could argue that 95,000 downward revision to the prior 2 months gives a hint of weakness. But again, these are the things we would expect in general if labor demand is softening and the hiring rate is slowing. So on net, a good report overall for at least the near-term outlook for the economy. And I do agree that it means the Fed's likely to be patient and continue to evaluate how risks are building on both sides of its mandate.
Well, now getting you the latest on Trump-related developments, we now have Dia joining us in her special segment, Trump Watch.
Tensions are running high in Los Angeles following a wave of immigration raids over the weekend, prompting a strong federal and international response. President Donald Trump pledged Sunday to send whatever is necessary to California to respond to 2 days of protests in Los Angeles triggered by sweeping immigration raids. National Guard troops arrived in the city on Sunday under orders from Trump, who directed the U.S. Northern Command to dispatch 2,000 soldiers to the area over objections from California Governor Gavin Newsom. Meanwhile, Mexico's newly inaugurated President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the raids and defended Mexican nationals living in the United States, in which she said 35 Mexicans were detained. She said, and I quote, "Mexicans living in the United States are good men and women, honest people who went to the United States to seek a better life for themselves and to support their families. They are not criminals." And in more updates, Donald Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One on Friday that a decision on who will lead the Federal Reserve is coming out very soon, according to Reuters.
You're already thinking about your next venture. I know it's 2026 with his privatized group. So you're already thinking,
oh, yes, it's coming out very soon.
What are you thinking about?
I could tell you, but what do you make? I have a pretty good idea about it. He's very highly thought.
Moving on, Iran's parliament speaker said on Sunday that the latest U.S. proposal for a nuclear deal does not include the lifting of sanctions, state media reported, as negotiations appear to have hit a roadblock. The two countries have held 5 rounds of Omani-mediated talks since April, seeking to replace a landmark agreement between Tehran and world powers that set restrictions on Iran's nuclear activities in return for sanctions relief before U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned the accord in 2018 during his first term. Lastly, top trade negotiators from the US and China are set to hold fresh talks in London on Monday in hopes to diffuse tensions over Chinese dominance in rare earth minerals. China said Saturday it approved some applications for rare earth exports without specifying which countries or industries were involved after Trump said Friday that Chinese President Xi Jinping had agreed to restart the flow of minerals and magnets using the materials. That's all for today. Now back to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Now, Donald Trump on Saturday also said that there would be serious consequences if Tesla chief Elon Musk funds Democratic candidates to run against Republicans who vote in favor of the GOP's sweeping budget bill. Now, the president also said that he has no desire to repair his relationship with Musk after a feud between the two men erupted into full public view last week. Now, Trump's comments were the most extensive since he and Musk exchanged threats and attacks on X and Truth Social earlier last week. He added that he thought that the Republican Party was more unified than ever after the two men fell out in front of the world.
Well, on the US-China talks that started Friday, Mark Mobius believes that China's position may have weakened. Listen in to his comments on the US-China trade talks and also his view on India.
If you talk to any manufacturer around the world, you see that China figures very high in the parts and components that they use, particularly here in the US. So I think the talks will be very critical. The big problem, I think, facing the talks is the weakened position of Xi Jinping. I don't know whether you've been keeping up with the political developments in China, but he is in a weaker position, maybe because of this problem with the US and the general failure of the Chinese economy. So it'll be very interesting to find out what comes out of the talks with him and with the people in London. They're meeting in London. So let's see what happens. But I think there's a very interesting development taking place. Key, of course, is a young population, average age about 26 compared to about 38 for the Chinese population. 1.2 billion people, growing at 7 to 8% real growth. So that's really the secret of India and the growing importance of India going forward. On our new fund, we're waiting to get into India, and that should happen within the next few weeks, and we'll be able to reduce the cash levels. But we're still high in cash, and one of the reasons is because of the high uncertainty brought on by the Trump administration.
Let's take a short break here on Power Breakfast. On the other side, we'll tell you how these overnight cues impact our own market. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. We now have our research team joining in with how the trade setup looks like and the stocks that are likely to be in the news. First up, Vivek joins us to get us all the market cues we need to watch out for. Good morning, Vivek.
Well, good morning. No, absolutely nothing to complain about this Monday morning with the kind of cues that we've received both from our own domestic markets on Friday as well as the overnight cues and the weekend cues that we received from Wall Street. Wall Street, all of the indices ended with gains on Friday. In fact, the move ensuring that Wall Street ended higher in the week gone by. Along with that, a little bit of inflation also seen as far as oil prices are concerned. Brent prices in the week gone by gained close to 2.8%. Friday, largely flat. Now, talking about the Indian markets, well, the story of the week gone by was the kind of unexpected liquidity gush that we saw, especially coming in from Mint Street. The rate cut by close to 50 basis points, CRR cut of close to 100 basis points ensured that the entire BFSI pact moved higher in the session. And in fact, key to watch out for would be whether that particular rally can continue in this particular week as well. Now, what actually outperformed? The Nifty Bank outperformed along expected lines. Along with that, one of the biggest gainers from the rate cut, the Realty Pack, that also outperformed in the week gone by. And another important story coming in from our colleague Shah was there could be a hike as far as motor insurance premiums are concerned. On the back of that, you did see names like ICICI Lombard Go Digit move higher as well. Now, Asian markets today are indicating a good start. GIFT Nifty also indicating a good start for our own markets. One important set of stocks to watch out for would be the gold financiers, where there has been the final norms that have come by as far as lending practices are concerned. So watch out for that particular pack as well.
Interesting there, because Manappuram also is in the F&O ban, so keep an eye out on that. Vivek, thanks a lot for that update. Over to Upasna now. We'll list out the stocks that you need to watch out for today. Upasna, good morning. What's on your list?
Good morning, Hormaz. Firstly, let me start with Hindustan Copper. The company has executed MOU with Rights Limited or to secure sustainable supply chain of metals and minerals. Next up is HDFC Bank. The stock will be in focus as, remember, there were reports indicating that Leelavati Trust calls for suspension and prosecution of HDFC Bank's CEO. To this, the company has given a press release and also told CNBC TV 18 that these allegations are malicious and baseless. Now, Lupin will also be in focus as it has received tentative US FDA approval for its tablet named as oxycarbazepine. The tablet has an estimated annual US sales of $206 million in the US market. UPL will also be in focus as the company's associate company that in Brazil, that is Serra Bonita Sementes, to sell its entire stake for $125 million. Mind you, UPL holds around 33% stake in this company. Railtel will also be in focus as the company has received work order from Bihar Education Project for supply amounting to 243 crore, and also it has received a second order from Department of Education Samagra Shiksha worth 16 crore. Hence, this stock will be in focus on the back of the order wins. Afcons is the next one on our radar. The company has awarded LOA worth 700 crore from Reliance Industries for execution of construction work related to vinyl project at Dahej, Gujarat. BEL is the another counter in our focus, as BEL and Tata Electronics have inked MOU towards development of indigenous electronics and semiconductor solutions. MCX will also be in focus as the company gets SEBI approval to launch electricity derivatives. NHPC is the next one on our radar as the company declared commercial operation date of third phase of company's solar power project in Bikaner on 7th of June. GRSE, that is Garden Reach Shipbuilders, will also be in focus as the company signs MOU with Sweden and Denmark to boost marine systems. To enter expedition cruise segment is what they have indicated. And lastly, Suzlon Energy will be in focus as according to sources, promoters likely to sell 20 crore shares via block deal, and the deal size is likely around 1295 crore and floor price is around 64.75 rupees per share, which is at a 2.9% discount to the closing price as of Friday. So all in all these stocks will be on our radar today.
Well, thank you so much for that comprehensive list, Upasna. And finally, we now have Sudarshan joining in with cues from the F&O space. Good morning, Sudarshan.
Good morning, Momakshi. So the data has gone for a major change, and all thanks to RBI governor who has announced major cut in both repo rates and CRR, and that has helped all the major indices turn positive for the week. All the major indices were up almost 1%, and for today also we might see an extension to Friday's gains as GIFT Nifty is currently higher almost 70 points. On Friday we saw buying in the cash market by both FIs and DIs. FIs have bought more than rupees 1,000 crore, while DIs have bought more than rupees 9,300 crore. Even the index futures too, FIs have bought more than rupees 2,400 crore, and they have also added long positions of more than 6,900 contracts, and at the same time have reduced short positions by 7,300 contracts. And now FI's long exposure increased to almost 21%. On the option front, the action has moved above 25,000 levels. On the call side, we have seen addition of more than 13 lakh shares for 25,100 call. Even 25,050 call has seen addition of more than 11 lakh shares. And on the put side too, 25,000 and 24,900 were the most active ones. Now support is seen somewhere around 24,800. If Nifty breaches the next support comes around 24,700. If you talk about the resistance, the first resistance is around 5,116, that is the recent high, and next resistance comes around 25,200. Four stocks are in the band, and those are Manappuram Finance, Hindustan Copper, AB Fashion, and Chambal Fertilizer.
Sudarshan, thanks a lot for that F&O update. 4 stocks today in the F&O band. We take a short break, but just as we do that, here's a programming note. CNBC TV 18 Access is a premium membership-based service available on cnbctv18.com. It offers members exclusive content, market intelligence, and expert thought leadership. Now, the membership includes access to CNBC TV 18's flagship events, interactions with our journalists, along with curated studio tours, e-learning sessions and masterclasses, and curated lifestyle benefits. Now, designed for an immersive and enriching experience, it empowers members with premium business intelligence and unique lifestyle benefits. Now, the power of insight, the privilege of access, exclusivity, experiences, and influence is yours to claim. Become a member. Log on to cnbctv18.com/access/plans.
Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Well, let's move on then and focus in on the commodity space. We now have Manisha Gupta joining us with all the updates from that. Good morning, Manisha.
Morning, and thank you for that, Rama. Well, we've seen crude oil prices gain up by 4% in the previous week, but we've started this week slightly on a weaker side. There are contradicting fundamentals. One, of course, there is optimism over talks between U.S. and China, and Canada also has entered direct tariff talks with U.S. now. But the markets also are looking at potential for increased U.S. sanctions on Venezuela. Saudi Arabia cutting prices for the month of July for its Asian consumers also is something that seems to be balancing the inventories right now. In the meanwhile, what really seems to be doing well is silver. We've seen prices gain up by 8% in the previous week, and it's trading nearly a percentage point higher in the Asian markets right now. So clearly, $35 an ounce, once taken, has been staying, and we are trading above 36 at this point in time. Not just silver, palladium is trading at a 17-week highs, platinum at a 13-month highs. We're also looking at copper prices continue to trade firm after 5% of gains in the previous week. The only thing that hasn't opened quite positive in Asia right now is the gold prices. It fell 1% on Friday. Stronger than expected U.S. jobs report at around 139,000 gains for non-farm payrolls in the month of May has put some pressure on the gold prices, but everything else in metals seems to be really glittering.
Positive start to the week indeed. Manisha, thanks a lot for that update. And seems to be glittering across the Asia-Pacific screen as well. The Kospi has now extended its gains. The Shanghai Composite continuing to trade 0.3% higher. The Nikkei continues to remain 1% higher. The Hang Seng is up 1.25%. So positive moves continuing across the Asia-Pacific despite some disappointing data coming in from China. And the GIFT Nifty continues to indicate a positive start for our own markets as well. Based on the implied open, we are likely to open around that 25,100 mark. But with that, we call time on this edition of Power Breakfast. From Amak, Shimi and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call sets you up for the day ahead.